Hey there guys, welcome to the channel. So have you ever been curious exactly what the left thinks about you and what they think they can convince you of? You know, what they say and believe when they're stuck together in their own comfy little bubbles and they think that no outsiders are watching. Well, we're in luck, man, because that is exactly what I just found yesterday. This is exactly how they actually act on TV, on Chuck Todd's Face the Nation. Full on reach around stuff, man. And you guys, you've got to see this, man. But before we do, guys, thanks to everyone that's been subscribing and leaving such great comments. We really, really appreciate the support. You know, this is going to be an awesome journey together, guys. And if you haven't already, please make sure you like, subscribe, comment. Most importantly, share the channel. Help us with the algorithm. Help us grow. Every time you do, a leftist loses their wings. Take a look at this.
Welcome back. For more than 2 years, Democratic Congressman Jamie Raskin has been laying out the case, first for impeachment, then for criminal prosecution of Donald Trump's conduct before and on January 6th. As the lead impeachment manager, Raskin argued before the Senate that Trump should be convicted for incitement of insurrection, making arguments which sound familiar today.
President Trump tried to bully state-level officials to commit a fraud on the public by literally finding votes. We saw him trying to get state legislatures to disavow and overthrow their popular election results and replace them with Trump electors.
And as a member of the House's January 6th Select Committee, it was Raskin that presented the committee's recommendation that the Justice Department charge Trump with 4 counts: obstructing an official proceeding, conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to make a false statement, and assisting in an insurrection. Well, the special counsel chose not to charge Trump with inciting or assisting in the insurrection or for false statements, but he did charge him with the other recommendations, in addition to adding the conspiracy against rights.
Obviously, man, this is just the foreplay, but even liberal foreplay is super, super tough to watch. But really, I mean, after all that, man, after truly believing these things, which we all know that they absolutely do not believe, they cannot believe it, but they both know that Trump, you know, meant find the votes that are illegal, not find fake votes, not make fake votes. They know that he didn't say that. And they don't actually believe that what we witnessed and what they lived through was anything more than just an angry mob. Basically the very, very same thing that they supported almost 600 times that summer. The only difference here was that this one knocked on their front door. But really, you know, if you do believe, and if they do believe any of this stuff, or even if they want to pretend like they believe it, shouldn't they be super pissed off that the man isn't charged with insurrection, isn't charged with inciting violence, isn't charged with false statements, isn't charged with any sort of sedition? Shouldn't they be just angry, you know, pretty much just about as angry as we are at the government, that the government had to reimagine a Reconstruction era law to prosecute the disparity between what a person says and what the government believes that they believe? You know, they should feel just as scammed as we do by all this, but they're not. You know, don't they feel like anyway, they're not, because they don't believe it. Let's see what Raskin has to say.
So joining me now is the Democratic Congressman we've been referring to there, Jamie Raskin of Maryland. Congressman Raskin, welcome back to Meet the Press.
Thanks for having me.
Let me first start with a couple of things we heard from Mr. Lauro. You spent 25 years as a constitutional law professor, so I kind of want to get Professor Raskin's take on this. Let me play one quick clip of something he said to me about the Constitution.
A technical violation of the Constitution is not a violation of criminal law. That's just plain wrong.
Now, he added the word criminal law there, but it was my understanding if you violate the Constitution, you have violated the law.
Well, first of all, a technical violation of the Constitution is a violation of the Constitution. The Constitution in 6 different places opposes insurrection and makes that a grievous constitutional offense. Mm-hmm. So our Constitution is designed to stop people from trying to overthrow elections and trying to overthrow the government. But
I'll have to ask, man, and let me know in the comments, but guys, do you believe that Jamie Raskin really believes that those people intended to overthrow the government when they showed up in costumes and literally 0 weapons, unless you consider freaking shaman horns a weapon? You know, does he really believe this? Or does he really expect us to believe that he believes it? You know, or is it, you know, that was actually an attempt to overthrow anything? I don't buy it, man. And I don't believe he believes it. There's that word again that he keeps throwing around. How upset do you think he is that they could not find some creative backdoor way to charge Trump with insurrection?
Overthrow elections and trying to overthrow the government. But in any event, there's a whole apparatus of criminal law which is in place to enforce this constitutional principle. That's what Donald Trump is charged with violating. He conspired to defraud the American people out of our right to an honest election by substituting the real legal process we have under federal and state law with counterfeit electors. I mean, there are people who are in jail for several years for counterfeiting one vote. If they try to vote illegally once, he tried to steal the entire election.
Bro, no, he did not. This is nothing but the same old tired hyperbole that we're used to from all of these guys. You know, it's almost as if they knew that they were going to get served up by Trump's lawyer, which was awesome to see. If you guys haven't seen that video, I did one on that. I'll figure out how to pin it in the comments. We're still pretty new here. But anyway, that was an appearance that had to upset the average Chuck Todd viewer. So I guess they bring on Jamie Raskin, headscarf and all, to make, you know, the seriously mushy-brained viewers feel put back at ease. You know, which, just a side note, you know, I cannot believe, you know, that people aren't upset with Jamie Raskin. You know, he's the ranking member on James Comer's basically Biden attack squad. And he's remained silent, absolutely silent. Every time that they come out with some sort of information about banking this and banking that and $17 million going to every Biden kid except for the little girl that no one wants to mention, he's silent. You know, you'd think that he'd be way out in front of any of this stuff. Anytime his committee comes out, you'd think he'd be putting out something that says it's not true, that he'd get out in front of it, say it's just some sort of conspiracy, but he's not. He's not saying a thing. And you'll also notice that when he makes these appearances on these shows, they don't ask him about it either. You know, they don't ask about it because they're afraid to ask about it. They know full well that it is absolutely 100% true, and they don't want to know. And they certainly don't want their mushy-brained viewers, you know, stroking out when they hear this stuff for the very, very first time.
And his lawyer's up there saying, oh, that's just a matter of him expressing his First Amendment rights. That's deranged. That is a deranged argument.
He also seemed to hint that everything he did as president may not be constitutional that he's charged with this. Sounds like the old Nixon defense. You know, I can do it because I was president.
Well, first of all, he's charged as part of a conspiracy. So there were lots of people who were involved in doing it. But in any event, the law that applies to the rest of us also applies to the president of the United States, a principle they understood very well during the impeachment when they were saying, well, let's not do it during the impeachment because he's already left office. Deal with this as a matter of criminal law. That's what Senator McConnell said. That's what a bunch of the Republicans said. Now it's like a three-card Monte. You can't get him for impeachment because he's already left office, but you can't get him for criminal law because he once was president. I mean, America can see what's going on here. This is...
So obviously, man, he doesn't mean it like he says it. But yes, America can see exactly what is going on here, Mr. Raskin. And granted, you know, we all see things a little bit different, many, many different ways. But what many of us see, and I believe what the majority of us see, is a weaponized police state that has taken out political vengeance on a political opponent who they still view as some kind of outsider. And we also see a media apparatus that isn't just allowing it, man, but they are fueling it. They are making this happen.
I mean, America can see what's going on here. This is a guy who wants to appoint himself completely immune from the rule of law that applies to the rest of us.
He chose not to charge insurrection. It sounds like Jack Smith wanted to avoid a debate over the First Amendment.
Well, there's a criminal statute, aiding and abetting or giving aid and comfort to insurrectionists, which, to the mind of the January 6th committee, Donald Trump definitely did. I mean, he's calling them great patriots. He's saying never forget this day. He continues to laud them to this very day and saying that when he gets back in, he's going to pardon all of those people. I mean, they're convicted of assaulting our police officers, and he's talking about pardoning them. A lot of them have pled guilty to seditious conspiracy, conspiracy to overthrow the government. So
guys, just a little window into how the Department of Justice operates, what they can do to literally anyone, anywhere, at any time. Our government has 23,000 pages of 3,000 laws, and this basically means that any one of us at any time can be found to be in violation of some obscure and usually freaking unbelievable law that we never even heard of. And on top of that, you know, most of these laws have absolutely freaking egregious sentencing ranges thanks to bills like Joe Biden's 94 crime bill. which in Biden's own words back then, and I won't get into any of his racist words, but in the words back then, these laws handcuff judges. So when a judge sees a sentencing guideline, even if the judge decides, this guy really doesn't deserve all this time, they really have no option in most cases except for to sentence this random person who just pled guilty to some obscure and archaic law to some egregious sentence. And I said pled guilty because this is exactly how our government operates. They demand that you plead guilty by pleading you down to something much more reasonable, still way out of line, but much more reasonable than they're threatening you with. So when the government threatens you with 1,000 counts of violating 21 CFR 169-150F, which, no BS, actually makes it a federal crime to sell salad dressing unless you actually label it as salad dressing. Of course, you had no idea that you had broken that law. And now here you are pleading guilty to 1 count of salad dressing and just doing 6 months or maybe even probation. But this is how it works. And this is why the Department of Justice has a 99.6 conviction rate. They are literally the most efficient department in all of our government's 430 departments, agencies, sub-agencies, and all the bureaucracy that we have. Literally no other aspect of our government is efficient or even proficient at all, let alone batting damn near 1,000. So this is how you end up getting plenty of convictions for seditious conspiracy. This is almost certainly not because these people are actually seditious conspirators, but it's because our government allowed them, coerced them to plead guilty and receive a decade in prison instead of fighting it and risking dying in prison. So they have essentially turned people's lives upside down, destroyed them, so that ghouls like Jamie freaking Raskin can go on Meet the Press on some beautiful Sunday morning and make people feel good about believing the government's lies. This is exactly also why they don't charge Trump with any of this stuff, because they know he will fight it, and they know that the whole house of cards will get exposed. Win or lose, the whole house of cards will get exposed. Anyway, back to this.
Seditious conspiracy, conspiracy to overthrow the government. So, but he's being charged with conspiracy to obstruct the federal proceeding, the joint session of Congress, and conspiring to defraud us all out of our voting rights. He tried to steal the election away from us.
Do you like how Jack Smith did this, or do you wish he had added the incitement?
No, I think that I understand there were prudential and tactical reasons for doing what he did, and I think it's excellent because the basic point.
So what he just said was, no, I'm not mad. I understand why he didn't charge it, because it didn't freaking happen like I've been saying that it happened, Chuck. Come on, man. Do you actually believe that?
And I think it's excellent because the basic point is the deprivation of our civil rights. Abraham Lincoln said it best. He said, an insurrection, an attempt to topple an election, is an attack on the first principle of government, which is the right of the people to choose their own leaders.
When you read the indictment, it's really strong on the alternate elector slate, right? There is specific actions that are taken. It really sort of throws away the whole speech defense because you start to see everything. During the impeachment trial, you didn't have the scope of the alternate elector scheme. Obviously, by the time you guys impaneled the committee, you did. Do you think it would have made a difference if you had sort of the scope then?
Well, I think it should have made a difference psychologically for the senators like McConnell who voted no. But, in a juridical sense, what they were saying was that the Senate did not have jurisdiction to try Trump because he was a former president. Now, 7 Republicans rejected that. All 50 Democrats rejected that. It was a 57-43 vote to convict him of inciting a violent insurrection against the Union, which was the most widespread bipartisan vote in American history to convict a president. And of course, Trump is bragging about the fact that only 57 senators voted to convict him of that. He beat the constitutional spread in his way. But I think that he's met his match now in a special counsel who is holding him to the letter of the criminal law.
He's met his match now? Or we have finally, after 6 years of looking, poking, and prodding, maybe, just maybe, we have finally found a way to get the bastard.
We're going to have a campaign that is going to be filled with a lot of whataboutisms. We know the Republicans are going to talk about Hunter Biden a lot here. And I know that a lot of the technical defense of the president with Hunter Biden is, well, the president didn't do anything wrong. But as Michael Kinsley once said, the real scandal in Washington is not what's illegal, it's what's legal. should there be a code of conduct, something for family members here? Because the appearance of what Hunter Biden did is not good.
Wow, man. I'm actually really surprised that Chuck Todd even freaking asked that. Good for him. That's slightly impressive, if I'm being honest. And, Raskin, he doesn't look, but here's the thing. Raskin does not look either surprised or annoyed. So I'm guessing that this question might be kind of a plant. Maybe they understand my point of view and realize that if they don't at least pretend to talk about the Hunter Biden thing, then they lose credibility on pretty much everything else, including what's going on with Trump. It's interesting to see where this goes.
Yeah, I mean, we know that there is a lot of, influence in Washington that's based on people's family connections.
Last
and family
names
ties.
matter a lot on K Street, as you know.
And I have repeatedly asked Chairman Comer on the Oversight Committee for us to look at that in a serious and substantive and methodical and nonpartisan way. But he's instead decided to just pursue the Hunter Biden thing as a one-off, as a way to score cheap political points. He doesn't want to talk about Jared Kushner, who brought back $2 billion, not million, $2 billion from Saudi Arabia to a company he created the day after the Trump administration ended, when there was still blood all over the Capitol.
So yeah, that's pretty disingenuous, and he knows it. Let me know in the comments if we should do a video on the Jared Kushner deflection that the left has been running crazy with. But say that Raskin really does believe that there's something there. Why does he think that it looks fishy to form a company after you leave office, but he's not at all concerned about having fraudulent companies while you're the sitting vice president? And how do these folks really square these things in their own brains and not hear the, abnormalities coming out of their own mouths? Let me know in the comments, if you think he did that on purpose. Let me know in the comments what you think.
Blood all over the Capitol.
Let me ask you this. Why do you think a thrice indicted former president is neck and neck with the current president?
Well, it's a great question. I wish that Lincoln were around to pose it to him, because it's his political party that they've dragged into the mud here. I mean, that was a pro-freedom, anti-slavery, anti-know-nothing, pro-immigration party, and now it's become a cult of authoritarian personality. Even the candidates running against Trump dare not challenge his clear betrayals of his constitutional oath. Donald Trump knew exactly what he was doing, and we had lots of testimony about that before the January 6th committee. His own White House counsel told him that he was wrong. The Attorney General of the United States, who was like the biggest sycophant of the Trump administration, said the arguments he was following were BS. And so he had to have known 60 federal and state courts rejected every argument about electoral fraud and corruption they brought forward, and still he went ahead. And even if he did believe it, as his lawyer's saying, which I don't think he did, but even if he did, it makes no difference. You might believe that your bank owes you some money. You don't have a right to go rob the bank.
And get that money back. Jamie Raskin, Democrat from Maryland. Appreciate you coming on, sharing your perspective with us. Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Well, they glossed over that pretty quickly, but the question from Todd was basically, dude, how the hell is this guy still a problem? How can we have a chance? And Raskin says, well, I wish Lincoln was around to see, what they've done to his great party. And when he says they mean us, they mean you, they mean me. You see, this is what they think of us. They think that anyone who could dare support a guy that did great things for this country, and we saw him do those things, after the left and the media and the entire propaganda machine has just told us over and over, drip, 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 every day, that he's no good. They basically demanded of us that we move on and forget all about the guy. Well, their only conclusion is that we are the problem. We are the irredeemable deplorables that just can't be helped. They never, not even once, ever question whether or not that the problem might be them or their guy. They never even think, is Trump really this, great for these people? Or is it just that we are just that terrible? Are we that bad? And they never even think of it. It's amazing to watch, man. George Orwell was absolutely right about pretty much all things. Let me know in the comments what you guys thought of that. I thought, I'd subject myself to this stuff so that you don't have to. And guys, if you haven't already, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the Common Sense Garage. And we'll see you in the next one.